Welcome to Game Day Wrap-Up with Mike St. Green. I'm Cameron Irvine. And a big Sunday slate wrapped up in Week 7 of the SFL today, March 7th. We begin out in the desert. Arizona gets the upset over Fort Worth. They stopped the Toros inside the 10-yard line. Hacker was short on the fourth down conversion. And Arizona is able to hang on. They improved to 4-3. Now 3 games back of Denver with 5 to go in the division because they already lost to Denver and will lose that head-to-head tiebreaker. But still, Arizona above 500, trying to make the playoffs for the first time under the direction of Eddie Gage, and it's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, Arizona came to this game, high flying on offense, averaging more than 30 points a game. And of course, Fort Worth was known for this top defense right now in the league. And Arizona in the first half seemed to have that defense's number, scoring 17 points in that first half. And, kind of looked like, hey, there's an offense versus defense thing. The offense was winning. And then all of a sudden in the second half, Fort Worth switching things up and started catching some breaks here and there. And the defense stepped up here in the second half, only gave up 3 points. But DJ Moses had a big game today for Arizona and sealed things up in the second half. And they held on desperately at the end to get the victory.
Yeah, the one guy, speaking of pick sixes, the one guy that was quiet was Iverson Gamble. Really didn't say his name too often in this game. Most of the passes that Fort Worth was successful on was actually to Robert Garrett. He had a nice day and actually got Fort Worth back in that game, but just not enough, And it's interesting, Mike. Arizona puts up 20 on a team that only averages giving up 10. But Fort Worth held down Arizona too. Arizona was averaging 30 coming into the game and held them to 20. I think the real difference is that Eddie Gage's defense has been really struggling this season to find consistency. They gave up 30 to Portland last week, but they showed up in this game, and they shut down Jason Williams. And that was really the difference because Fort Worth's defense and Arizona's offense was basically a stalemate.
Yeah, you really have to give Arizona's defense credit today. They definitely have been struggling coming in this game to stopping teams from scoring. They did have a pretty good game against Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. But, yeah, to shut down Cameron Curtis in that offense this week, he was coming off of a 5-touchdown game, and to hold them to 13 points and held, like I said, Jason Williams in check. Jason Williams came in 4th in the league in rushing, and I don't think he done much at all today, under 100 yards. So, yeah, give Eddie Gage credit for coming up with a great game plan to shut these guys down and slow them down.
From the desert to Great Britain, a collapse of epic proportions as London led Sioux Falls 10-0 for what seemed like 3 hours. At one point, Julian Tyree was 4 for 11 for 6 yards and 3 interceptions. This was late in the third quarter. But down the stretch, a lack of dime defense prevented London from closing the game out, and they gave up a huge touchdown pass to Gunnar Lewis. That made it 10-7. And then a critical decision. They had 4th and inches, 10-7. If they get the first down, the game is over. They end up calling a timeout, kicking a field goal, giving Sioux Falls the ball back, and then Sioux Falls got another long touchdown, and they ended up winning the game 14-13. And Sioux Falls has now won 2 in a row. London falls to 3-4, and coupled with Queen City's victory over Carolina today, all of a sudden, London's got to deal with Queen City as well. Now, Baltimore did lose to Atlanta, so not the worst day in the world for London, but they had that game all day long. Sioux Falls did nothing offensively, and they absolutely stole one. And now all of a sudden, Sioux Falls has won 2 in a row.
Yeah, Cam, this was an amazing game just from the standpoint of, ineptitude on both offenses. Coming into this, all day long, coming into this game, I highlighted the defenses and how many yards that both defenses gives up. So I was kind of expecting, a high flying, wide open game, and we got the total opposite here in this game to earlier today. I have my notes here. Dustin Zeck caught a touchdown pass at 9:25 of the second quarter. So that's early in the
Wow.
second quarter to make it 10-0. And then late under 2 minutes in the second quarter, in the first half, Johnny Summers, a backup defensive lineman,
Yeah, I almost forgot about
dropped
that
into
play.
coverage and with an interception in the end zone that basically saved the game for Sioux Falls at that point, because they were ready to go up at least 13-0, and probably the game is over at that point with the way that Sioux Falls were playing. But then the entire second half, London just, they just sputter and spin their wheels the whole second half. Was, I mean, nothing really to write home about that Sioux Falls was doing all that great. That London just were not executing, just, 3-and-outs, not putting anything together, and they just let Sioux Falls hang around, and then, a couple of big plays at the end under 4 minutes left in the game, and they lose the game.
Yeah, just crazy, and it's almost kind of like a situation of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. London trying to turn the corner, and Sioux Falls is like dead and gone for the first time ever, right, in the SFL. And then a team that is just trying to make the playoffs for the first time coughs one up against a team that's been to the championship back-to-back seasons that has no business being anywhere near a championship game right now. And it was heartbreaking to see it all unfold. They had it to 4th and inches. Just go for it. They had a shot to put it away. Heartbreaker.
Yeah, definitely a heartbreaker for London. Hey, but keep your heads up, guys. Still a good portion of the season left. Anything can happen in that division that you're in. It's still pretty tight. Yeah, Baltimore's ahead, but playoffs, you're still in that picture. So keep your heads up.
And it's worth noting, despite the defensive breakdowns, they held Sioux Falls to basically no yards of offense for 3.5 quarters. So
Yeah.
it was obvious they did a lot right in the game plan, but down the stretch, just gut wrenched by 2 long bombs, and Sioux Falls is able to pull it out. Well, division races are tightening all over the SFL after Week 7. Just Sunday alone, 5 of the 6 games were won by the team with the worst record, or the worst record of the 2 teams playing, I should say. So
Right.
Everything's starting to tighten up. We bring you our winners and losers from Week 7 in terms of their division races. Which teams really helped themselves out and which teams really fell behind. We'll start with your first winner, Mike, of Week 7.
My winner is going to be, oh, wow. Just looking at it, I'm thinking my winner is going to be Atlanta. They got a big win over a huge opponent in Baltimore. Go over 500, 4-3 in this division, and basically keeping themselves alive for a division championship and an automatic playoff bid. So Atlanta's definitely a big winner today.
I'm going to go Mexico City. Fort Worth looked beatable, scoreable, if that's a word. I mean, Arizona didn't light up the scoreboard, but they were able to do enough. Lone Star lost, and Mexico City looks really good. And the team that Mexico City is now tied with, Fort Worth, they still haven't played each other, and their one matchup is in Week 10, sort of a winner-take-all thing right there. So if I'm Mexico City, all of a sudden, I feel like destiny is back in my hands, and the Lone Star, a playoff team from last season, is starting to fade a little bit after their loss to DC. Mexico City's my first winner. Who's your loser of Week 7, Mike?
I'm going to stay right in the East, Cam. They're still at the top of the division, but I think St. Louis is the biggest loser in the, as far as division races go this week. They had a chance to, stay ahead a couple games on the rest of the division, and now they've lost 2 in a row. And that division, which, was a couple weeks ago, kind of theirs to lose. And right now they're, letting other teams back in it. So, and, maybe they can bounce back, but, because they hadn't been blown out or hadn't played terribly, they just hadn't gone over the hump the past couple of weeks. But yeah, they are definitely losers because this division is starting to tighten up.
I'm going to go. I was going to go LA, but I'm actually going to go Baltimore because I think Baltimore had a real great opportunity to just put everybody away in that division. But then Queen City won, and now DC won, and while London lost, Baltimore's loss basically keeps everybody 2 games back. And I wouldn't write off London just yet. I mean, that was a terrible way to lose a game, but I think everybody in London knows they should be 4-3 right now. And if they were, they'd only be a couple games back of Baltimore with 5 to go, and they have a lot of, more positive spirits. If Baltimore wins against Atlanta, they are 6-1, 4 games ahead in the division with 5 to go because they've already beaten London and Queen City. So that was it. That was their moment. They basically could have punched their ticket to the playoffs. Instead, they give up 41 points to Atlanta on the road. And didn't look bad, Mike, today, but they didn't look special. Baltimore, the defending champions. I thought we'd see a little bit more out of them. Instead, we saw the Bryant dynasty we were used to seeing last week. He was terrific. And Baltimore just kind of looked ho-hum and may have taken Atlanta for granted in this contest.
They look like the second best team in the league, Cam.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. For those that remember, I said that Baltimore was the number 1 team in the league, and Mike's been waiting to get me back for that since I gave Tom Pepper a game ball yesterday. So he's been sitting on that for a long time, as you can tell by his joyful, just banshee laughter. It's just really quite alarming. But anyway, week 7 is in the books. Mike and I have had fun all weekend long. And we'll see you next weekend for week 8. Things are tightening up and getting interesting. Oh, no. We have to give game balls. I almost forgot, Mike.
Yeah, that's like, you didn't think anybody deserved game balls today?
Okay, game balls, Mike, before I get run over by my own words here.
Well, I'm going to take this one before you take it. Moose Papano today with Atlanta. Great game. Hat trick with 3 interceptions, including a bat-breaking pick 6 that put Atlanta on the path to this victory. Moose Papano gets the first game ball.
I'm going to go Scott Johnson. I know it was San Diego. I know they're 0-7, but Johnson put up 223. Not a lot of running backs getting over 200 yards these days. And remember, Scott Johnson, he didn't have that big of a role last season in Las Vegas. Didn't have that great of a season. He had 1 big breakout game against Florida. But Vegas is trying to run the football more. And tonight, Tiberius Bovine got hurt. So Vegas was down a key weapon offensively. It kind of discombobulated their passing game tonight. But Johnson was there when they needed him. And sometimes that's all you need for a game ball. So Johnson's 223 is enough for me to get the game ball tonight.
That's a great game ball, Cam, because another thing to add with Johnson, he had a couple of huge touchdown runs, one of 41 yards, another one of 70 plus. So yeah, huge game. And Las Vegas definitely went into this game wanting to protect Colin Pierce, because he had a turnover problem the past week or so, past couple weeks. So yeah, Scott Johnson would definitely held up his weight tonight and got Vegas that win.
All right, who's next?
All right, next is going to be Jet Zero. Big game for Queen City. Just a grinded out performance for him. 30 carries, 132 yards, and a touchdown. And he was magnificent on the last drive for Queen City once Carolina kind of pulled that game close. A couple of big runs and kept the chains moving and helped Queen City run out the clock. So yeah, Jet Zero gets my second game ball tonight.
Oh, this is a tough one. Where do I want to go? I'm going to co-game ball. I'm going to give it to Corey Menner and Johnny Bravo. Those two tonight, defending the Los Angeles deep ball, were absolutely phenomenal. Between the two of them, I think had 7 pass deflections. And for corners to be targeted that many times and come up time and time again with deflections and key stops. Bravo also had an interception in the end zone in the third quarter that stifled LA's comeback attempt. It was 13-7 at the time. LA was looking to take the lead, and Bravo got the pick. So I can't just give it to Menor or give it to Bravo, because both of them had terrific games. So my co-game ball there, the Charleston Corners, get my game ball for absolutely shutting down LA, who averaged 30 points a game coming into the night and scored 7 at home. So those guys deserve it.
Yeah, that Charleston secondary definitely did a great job today. I think Sully Richardson, no touch. Well, maybe he did have one touchdown to Davius Reed, but outside of that, yeah, that secondary did a great job, and that entire front seven did a great job, because Robert Johnson only had like 41 yards rushing today, so they definitely held that high-powered offense in check.
Absolutely. Well, for Mike St. Green, I'm Cameron Irvine. This has been Game Day Wrap-Up for Sunday, March 7th, and Week 8 action starts Saturday, March 13th, with Atlanta facing Los Angeles. 2, 4, and 3 teams. That is going to be a great one, and we can't wait. For Mike and I, we'll see you next weekend.